All right, we are back, and for some reason, Facebook decided to drop the stream, so that's okay. We'll let that stream go. We should be going on YouTube live right now. I want to make sure that that is going. Something popped up. Yeah, we might have had a weird little anomaly here on the Facebook side of things tonight. Just wanting to make sure before we start. The second session, this session, there we are. I now see myself. Our session now, we've got Mike Doucot and Ben Stowe that are going to be joining me. We actually recorded this earlier tonight because they've got a couple of things going on tonight. So I'm going to be running the interview with the two of them, talking about getting better quality sound with our sound systems. I'm going to be sticking with you guys in the chat room and answering any questions or just talking about life in general. And then we'll be coming back at the end and such and talking a little bit more about that. So I've got Mike Doucot from Electro Voice and Ben Stowe from NLFX Pro talking about audio and gear and all the little aspects of that. So let's get into tonight's show. So I'm joined by Mike Doucot and Ben Stowe this evening. Gentlemen, thanks for joining me.
Our pleasure.
You got it, John.
Guys, the audio world is an area that we all think we know a lot about, but it turns out that the more you get into it, the less you seem to know until you become an expert like you guys would be in this world. Let's talk a little bit about some of the common problems that DJs have with their systems. You guys hear, people coming up and saying, "Oh, this is an issue," and maybe we can give some tips on how to maybe rectify or deal with some of those problems. Mike, you get to hear a lot at this show, so let's start with you. What kind of things are you hearing from DJs that they're just struggling with their sound, some of those issues?
Well, I think the first thing that we always see and what I hear from anybody I meet at the shows, and I shouldn't say anybody, but a lot of people come up and say, "Boy, my speaker seems to be clipping too early," or this or that. And really what they're getting at there is gain structure. I think that's usually the biggest thing that you have to get right in any system, and I think it's also the hardest in many ways. So I think that there's a lot of room for learning there as far as how to set gain structure. There's so many different parts of the system now, and although things have been simplified a little bit over the last few years, there's still a lot of questions as far as when you go through the entire signal chain. You think about all the different places something can go wrong, and that could be right in the software. A lot of times, if guys are using a virtual DJ or Serato, things like this, you've got gain right on the channel. You've got a master gain. You've got the output of your PC or your Mac, and that's before you even get to your mixer. So you've got at least 3 different places where you can screw up your gain structure before you even get to the pro audio equipment. You're still in your computer at that point. And then, of course, you've got your mixer, again, a channel and a master fader. You've got the inputs on your loudspeakers and or amplifiers, and then master outputs on your speakers. So there's all kinds of different ways where it can get screwed up, but there's definitely a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And sadly, I think even the information that's out there, if you Google these sort of things, is sketchy at best, let's say.
Sure. So if I'm understanding this right, and Ben, maybe you can help me here because you can interpret these things for me once in a while, is that I can have some super high-end equipment. Say I'm running some very ETX speakers because we love those. We'll go into that more later. I could have an incredible sound system, and I could be screwing something up on this side that would be causing bad sound. Is that what I'm kind of picking up from what Mike said?
Absolutely. And, like Mike said, gain structure is one of the really critical things. Had to begin with, you really can't fix it anywhere else in the chain. So, if you start with the bad signal at the preamp side or the input side, it's very difficult to fix that throughout. And conversely, one of the areas where I see DJs also really struggle, literally within the last couple of weeks, I observed a DJ at an event struggle with this. I was just a guest. His room EQ. I recognized that they did have good stuff, but they were in a challenging room, and it was interesting as I really found myself focusing on that more than the event. I stayed with my family, and I'm like, man, I want to go up and tune that rig so bad, so I can enjoy the rest of my night. And so there's things I think that DJs maybe don't know that they don't know. Gain structure might be one, room EQ might be another. Maybe they're vaguely aware that these things exist. Maybe they're very aware they exist, but they just don't know what to do about it. And another word that we hear a lot from DJs that they struggle with is feedback. And both of those are direct proponents to feedback. Gain structure and EQ are your best tools at preventing feedback. So,
yeah, let's take a little break here. We're going to fix. We've got problems with Ben's computer. We'll be right back here. We've got our sponsors for our summer 2016 DJ and TV shows.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Hits USA from RPM. Our name says it all. Get the latest hits while they're the hottest. With Top Hits USA, you'll have the track for sure. Visit tophitsusa.com or call 800-521-2537 and get a free demo.
All right, we are back. Evie is one of our big sponsors of the DJ and TV shows and Disc Jockey News. Please, if you're looking for speakers, call Mike up and have him come on over and set up a sound system. Oh, wait, no, it doesn't work that way.
He'll do that personally. He'll come right to your house.
I'm sending Ben. Put up with him.
He just catches his minions like me.
So we were talking a little bit about gain structure, and then you started talking about EQ being a problem in setting up a room, Ben. Now you mentioned that you wanted to just go and tweak that sound system. What kind of adjustments would you have been able to make? I mean, my board is really kind of simple nowadays. I mean, I've got high, mids, and lows, and is there something else I'm missing?
Yeah, you're missing a lot, unfortunately, and that is one of the challenges DJs have. And I don't know that I would have been able to do much with his system. I don't know what he had up there for outboard gear or mixer, and not to turn this into a sales pitch, because believe me, the Symposium is going to be anything but a sales pitch. Of course, it's being hosted at the Electro Voice headquarters, but physics doesn't belong to anybody. So this isn't going to be a 2-day sales pitch for EV speakers. This is going to be 2 days of really good education. But that said, EV's ETX do have a parametric EQ built in the back of them. So where the DJ mixer might be lacking, that's probably the first place I'd go. That, or if you have a system processor, a DC1, or a drive rack. Sorry, Mike. Whatever. But something that gives you some ability to process. It's funny because just a couple days ago, I just did sound a sort of a corporate type event, and it was in an old high school gymnasium, and it was like a Quonset hut shape. And low frequency was just building up so bad in the middle of the room, yet it was kind of thin on the sides. And that's sort of a product of that, weird shape, that dome, semi-parabola, whatever. Like 116 hertz was going nuts. Now, fortunately, I had a board that had the ability to adjust that. But had I not, then I could have gone to like that parametric on the ETXs or, some other outboard processor. But I think the biggest thing is knowing. You don't even know why you would use a DC1 or a drive rack or a DX46 or any other processor, let alone how you would use it. And I think the why is the first place to start. So
Interesting. So you had, in a case with that 116 hertz signal, would you go and actually just like visualizing, just pulling that frequency down, or would you have to do something different?
I smashed just about everything below 250, and then kind of selectively brought a few things back in so that people didn't sound anemic, knowing again that I had a problem in the center of the room that wasn't the same on the outside of the room. And also I was able to do that on a live sound console. I was able to do that individually for the mic channels and leave playback audio alone to eliminate feedback on the mics, but then go in and find those problem frequencies in the playback and kill those so that we don't have a big rumble building up from playback tracks. In either case, if I was a DJ, I would have just done it on the main outs, and it sounded much better. In fact, people were fascinated by the fact that in this very challenging audio room, people were still walking in front of my speakers and not having feedback, even though all kinds of problems, existed in the room from natural ambient speech. They were not existing in my sound system. So interesting. Now, I got paid a lot of money for it, and that's not, I'm not trying to turn this into that, but I think it's interesting if DJs knew how much money there could be made outside of just DJ audio when you can provide quality results. You don't have to compete so much on price.
Right.
So.
Yeah, especially when you can have a system without feedback and quality sound that covers an area. Like this past weekend's wedding, I had that, and the people at that room had never heard a sound system sound like that in that building before, which was really kind of cool.
And they'll remember you.
Yeah.
Remember that you made it
sound. For me, it's not even so much as branching out if you want to do live sound or you want to do other things. For me, it's just at the core of what a DJ does, it's provide audio.
Yeah.
And very few focus on audio, right? They may know music very well. They may know lighting. They may know all the events and all the things to coordinate for a bride or a groom or at school dances, and they know the right way to interact and get everything. But at their core, they're providing audio, and that is what's bringing the party. And to not know how to do that right, or to spend quite literally no time on it is a little bit scary to me. So we're trying to change that a little bit, and hopefully slowly but surely folks will pay attention.
So we've talked about gain and we've talked about EQing and some of the difficulties. Now let's kind of move over a little bit to, we've got the Audio Symposium, which is, the link's down in the description below, gang, so you can go down there and check that out. Audiosymposium.com. Are we going to learn some of these answers at the gain structure and how to EQ a little bit to eliminate some issues? Is that going to be part of that show?
Whether you want to learn it or not, we're going to make you learn it. Yeah.
Well, I think it's easy to say, without a doubt, absolutely. I think everybody that attends will go home knowing way more than they did coming in. How much of it absorbs, who knows? I mean, that depends on how much you apply yourself when you're there and really pay attention. We're going to do our best to break it down, make it understandable, make it something that is very much easy to learn and hands-on, very interactive. But I think what's important is to know that don't go in with the attitude of, this is too far above me, because it's not. Everybody starts knowing nothing. Okay, so anybody can learn it. You just don't dismiss yourself. Give yourself a chance to absorb it, and if you don't get it, speak up, and we'll talk you through it. That's for sure.
Yeah, Mike's laid out the schedule very carefully in a way to allow us to present hard-hitting, intense material and stretch you a little bit, but at the same time, make sure we're not leaving anybody behind, kind of come back to those things. So, yes, it's going to be hard, but yes, yes, you'll learn something. We want to honor your time and money to come by stretching your knowledge base, but at the same time, that only works if you leave with that knowledge. beyond that, Rome wasn't built in a day. And while you'll leave after those 2 days having learned a lot, the learning doesn't stop there. And I think, John, the shows that we've done are really, illustrative of that. Mike's support on the boards, my support on the boards are illustrative of that. And you can bet that we're gonna want to work a little bit harder for the people who've made that level of commitment already. I know already from having done previous lighting symposiums and having spoken hundreds and hundreds of times, I know I'm going to get questions, and I'm looking forward to those questions as people begin to metabolize and employ the skills they've learned. And of course, it gives you a foundation. They'll probably go watch some of the shows that we've done after the symposium and see those shows in a new light and say, wow, I did not pick up on that then because I didn't have this piece yet.
Sure.
So this is going to be a really intense 2-day learning process, but it's just the beginning of a very exciting journey into better audio.
Very neat. Very neat. That should be a lot of fun for the people.
Just John, one more thing on that. I mean, folks attending should know that the very process, these academies that we're going to start doing, these symposiums, whatever you want to call them, this is the very way I learned. Okay. I started with EV about 15 years ago, and I was a DJ before that. And I walked in, and I didn't really know much about audio. I knew how to use the stuff a little bit, but really didn't know how to use it well. And we did these things all the time for our dealers. So we would do stuff for Sam Ash and for independents like Ben, and we would bring in the dealers' employees, and our very smart people that work there would teach these classes, and they would put their new employees in it every time. And eventually it all sunk in. So, I mean, it's the exact same process. What I wanted to do was bring that out one more level to the end users. So that's exactly what we're doing.
Very nice.
Folks, the takeaway here, this is very important. The takeaway here is if Mike can learn it, so can you.
Touche.
You know what? Okay, so all kidding aside, Mike will tell you that look, everybody knows who I am and what I do and all that. Even still, I'm constantly bugging the guys at Evie if they're having any training I can go to. I've even been to the same one 4 or 5 times because I'll just get a little something more, So I'm obsessed with learning, and I love Evie's dedication to teaching, and it lines up with my philosophy really well, and that's why they're a great partner for this event. So no matter how much you think you should go.
Absolutely.
So for the people out there who maybe aren't using EV products right now, I mean, they can still come, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we welcome everybody. I mean, obviously we hope that everybody, learns why we think EV is so great, but that's not what this is about. I know there was a thread recently, and one of the guys that attended our seminar at Expo kind of felt it was an infomercial. Ben called me about it, and I was really surprised that he had that, took that away. And I wish I would have had the opportunity to speak to him directly about it, because literally I started my presentation with, this is not an infomercial. And the only time we talked about product at all in those sessions was when I referenced a particular feature that, hey, only this line of EV speakers does this, and that was it. So
we're not going to cover a lot of proprietary stuff in the symposium. I mean, these things, frequencies and whatnot, gain structure and that sort of thing, they don't belong to anybody. Like I said, physics is not proprietary, and while we might reference that the DSP in the back of an ETX is a tool, that is such a small part of what we're going to be doing. It's a much more useful tool if you understand what those frequencies are and where they're at, and what to do about them. So we're going to spend very little time on that sort of thing. I think you'll be impressed with the EV product just by being around it. That really has no place in an educational landscape, So come prepared to learn, period.
That's true.
How about if I'm just getting into it, is there a level of expertise I need to have before coming in here, or is it going to be able to get me from wherever I'm at today and take me to a different level?
I'll tell you what, I'm going to grab this one real quick. Mike, you might answer it differently, but I'll say that I know people who've been DJing for 15 years who really haven't advanced beyond the beginner level. You can continue to do the same thing repetitively without growing. Now, that's not to say that all DJs who've been doing it a long time don't know anything, but you got to start sometime and somewhere. I would just jump in and get your feet wet. I mean, what are you waiting for? You're waiting to do it wrong for a few years before you decide to do it right. I mean, just get in there and learn it.
I would agree 100%. I would, without, making anybody feel bad. I think there's just nothing but opportunity there. I think there's been a lot of focus on, like I said before, a lot of other topics and how you make yourself better as a business person or as a lighting designer and this and that. And I don't know of any other real push for guys paying attention to what they're doing on the audio side. So it's a perfect opportunity to do that. If you look at the list of topics, it's not about the product. All of those principles, if you scroll through the list, audio 101, setting gain structure, dynamics in music, wired and wireless microphones, loudspeaker placement, identifying frequencies. All of these things are generic topics that can be applied to anything.
Wired and wireless is a biggie too. I mean, proper mic selection obviously is a big thing. Proper mic use is a big thing, and wireless just got bigger for those following the FCC's auction. It didn't go according to plan necessarily, and anybody surprised? Not me, but I mean, boy, that's going to be a good one. Somebody said, and I wish I could remember who, and it seems like maybe it was somebody in this conversation or Jeremy, I don't remember, but they said nobody dances to the light show. So, the entire product of what you deliver as a DJ and an MC does exist in audio, really. That's not to say lights aren't important and video is not important and chocolate fountains aren't important and photo booths aren't important. But listen, if you're charging people to provide sound, do it well. Please.
Preach on.
You're making it too easy right now for people to come up to guys like me at this little event I was telling you about and go, wow, that is amazing. I've been in this room 1,000 times. I never understood a word anybody said. Yeah. And you nailed it. And I'm thinking, well, good, because the guy paid me a lot more because I told him I could, Yep. So,
yeah. And the truth is, a lot of loudspeaker manufacturers have done a really good job of making great products recently where you can get pretty good results to just plug them in and go. But the point is to really understand what you're doing, to really understand how to make it better when you run into problems or issues, how to fix something when something goes wrong, and just as good as it can be right out of the box, it can be that much better when you know what you're doing.
No question, Mike. You know what rig I have? Obviously, it's a concert touring rig. It's an EV rig, but it's one of the best rigs in the world. It recently beat out Meyer and Nexo for the PIPA award. And we're using great mixing boards and great signal processing, and we're doing this with professional musicians. Yet we still spend time tuning the rig. Why would we do that? I'll tell you what, getting in that thing is like, comparing that even to like ETX, which is an amazing portable loudspeaker line, but that's like getting in a Ferrari instead of a Corvette. You push down on the gas pedal, what you got under the hood. Mm-hmm. But put an amateur driver on a racetrack and tell him to go 200 miles an hour. The car is great. The handle's great. It's got a lot of horsepower, but you're still destined for bad results, I think, So the point is, no matter what you got, no matter how great your rig is, in fact, really on that line, why would you spend that kind of money and make that kind of investment in the rig and then go into it blind? That's ludicrous. That's silly. I mean, a good sound engineer can make a bad sounding rig tolerable. But a bad sound guy isn't going to have a lot of success, even with the best rig out of the box, not in those challenging environments, I think. So, yeah, you're right, Mike. Loudspeaker advancement's amazing. It's fantastic. The laser mapping of the cones and those kinds of things they're giving so many wonderful resources to people. But, again, you still got to know how to drive the race car. So
it's true.
So will the event, if I'm a specifically karaoke jock, would this benefit me? Is there going to be information that's going to help me have better sound at my events?
Well, you can make the sound better, maybe not the singers, but
okay. If I'm doing high school events, you guys have got me covered.
Yeah, sound is sound. Look, if you're, a lot of DJs I know also do house of worship stuff.
Yep, that's where I was headed. And if I do Sunday things, I want to make. I'm trying to cover the base, basically that sound is sound, and really, no matter what application, whether I'm a high school DJ, I'm a wedding DJ, I do sound in a church on Sundays. There's going to be information there that's going to make me more effective at any and all of those.
Absolutely. If you're using speakers, if you're using microphones, if you're using mixers, if you're using amplifiers, it's all the same. None of those pieces of gear care what's going into it.
That's right. In fact, I think the ante gets raised when you start talking about karaoke. Now you're talking about a couple different mics. You're talking about what happens when we open multiple mics and our loss of headroom. And we're talking about maybe using some dynamics, compression, limiting gates, maybe some EQ, I don't know, auto-tune. I don't know. Is that
3-to-1 rule.
But house of worship, that's a biggie. It's all translatable. And that's really, I think, what Mike and I are both saying, John, is that if you work with sound in any capacity, and you do so professionally, i.e. you charge people money to do it, you should strongly consider coming. Now, there's only 50 seats and they're filling up fairly fast now, so you should start thinking about it a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly. I was looking the other day and it's like there's over half of them are filled up already. So
time to go, boys and girls.
Yeah, definitely time to go. Before our time runs out here, guys, I wanted to talk a little bit about specific questions and some things here, because we've been talking about the EV speakers for a while now, and a lot of DJs have jumped in and they've gone from the ZLX or the EKX, and now some are starting to kind of sniff around at that ETX cabinets a little bit more, just because they hear Ben, they've heard you and me talk about it on our shows. Mike, when you've joined us, we've talked about it. And I get to spend my first chance in the last couple of weeks playing with an ETX cabinet. And, when we've talked about them, we've always talked about them that the EKX and such is a wonderful sounding cabinet. But if we want to take some paint off the walls, you go to the ETX. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you guys, with the audience out there watching. We say these things, but until you actually you have them and you've got your hand on the throttle, you're not really sure if they could do that, but they can. They really, really can. So I think there's a lot of other DJs who are finding out that. If I'm running a current, my system now, what's the process? I can't afford maybe to go and upgrade everything at once. Say if I'm running a 4-speaker EKX system right now, Mike, what would be the way? What would you recommend for upgrading to the ETX and still having good sound during that transitional time?
Well, the beauty of what we did at EV and have done for the last 5-6 years now is although we've developed a lot of different loudspeakers at different price points and different feature sets, we kept in mind that a lot of these users will mix and match systems, and that our users will also have a need to do that, not only because of price point or because of their own financial limitations, but also because sometimes it's the right thing to do. Sometimes I may have a specific tool in one family that I don't have in another. So we've really designed a lot of the DSP to be able to work together in a lot of the boxes. And frankly, across the EV family, I think what you'll find is, although again, some will have better features or different build construction, things of that nature, I think when you listen to an EV box, you always know it's an EV box. It's voiced a certain way so that it's very natural in the vocal range. It has a nice full range sound. They're all very characteristically very, very flat response, and also have the really good ability to be mixed and matched that way, so that you've got these certain tone characteristic that it always sounds like EV. And I know it sounds a little weird, but when you hear it, you can almost pick out an EV box when you hear it, just because of the way we work to tune every single box. And while ETX might get louder than ZLX, they still can work together in the right applications.
Very nice. So we could, work our way up the lines basically, and we're not going.
Well, yeah. I mean, to answer your question a little more specifically, if you've got a lot of EKX boxes and you're looking at starting with ETX, depending on how you want to grow your system, I mean, the first thing I would do is maybe go for the subs, go for the ETX subs. And the reason for that is it's a lot more likely that the ETX subs will balance with an EKX top, for instance, than it would be for an ETX top to balance with an EKX sub. Now, the reason for that is largely because generally the full range loudspeakers, the tops, are always going to be more efficient than the subs. They're always going to get louder. So that's why you'll see a lot of concert systems, things like that, or general, in general, a 2-to-1 sub to top ratio will achieve really the best balance most of the time.
Interesting. Ben, when a person's mixing and matching like that, are there some EQ or some audio dynamics that you would recommend for people to keep an eye out for?
Well, yeah, possibly. And without overcomplicating it, the crossover points might be different from a top to a sub, and you got to find the new sweet spot there, kind of the happy mutual area. Obviously, like Mike touched on efficiency, what's going to, run from what. I literally just had a message from a guy a couple of days ago who was asking, he said, I'm doing this big school dance and it's going to be, 1,200 kids. And what do you recommend? And I told him, and he says, oh, wow, well, I don't have anywhere near that much gear. And I said, well, then you're going to struggle. He told me what he had. And he said, well, I already took the gig, so I guess I'm stuck with it. And I kind of thought, well, what was the,
Why ask? So now inquiring minds want to know, what type of gear, what did you recommend for the size of cabinets and such?
Well,
without mentioning,
we were talking ETX and we were talking about a school dance, and I said minimum 18 subs and maybe 4 of the 35p tops, 4 aside on the subs and then 2 aside on the 35p tops, and splay them out. Very important. We'll cover this in the symposium, why you don't just point 2 boxes straight ahead. That's actually worse than having 1 box. You'd be better off with just 1 box at that point. Yeah.
So you're saying splay them. So instead of having the faces flat or right, that they would actually kind of
play them. Yeah. But if you want to learn why, you got to come to the symposium.
Well, yeah, I want to try to define the word so they have an idea that it's not
angle them at the horn angles. And then there's some cool things you can do with delay and whatnot to make that a very seamless, which is built into ETX. But anyway, and I said, I might even go 12 subs, 6 aside for this, and just, have enough rig for the gig. And, and anyway, that just wasn't at all in the cards. And I said, and I certainly don't want to mention this guy's name. Yeah. And I applaud him for wanting to learn. But, he said, well, I already took the gig. And I'm like, well, you're going to struggle, and you very well could damage what you have, because you're going to be pushing it way too hard, trying to accomplish what it just really wasn't built to do.
Yeah, if you guys remember what we did at the Mobile Beat show when they had Red Foo, I mean that was exactly that rig Ben just talked about. That was a dozen ETX 18 subs and 4 of the 35s, the 3-way. 15.
And what was the attendance? It was like 800 or 900 people, right?
Yeah, in that ballpark. Yeah.
We're right in that ballpark. I mean, I didn't just pull these numbers out of thin air, and unfortunately it's sort of that inconvenient truth of physics. Now, somebody might say, well, great, I'm going to come to the symposium to have all my dreams dashed. I'm going to learn that I need more gear than I think I can afford. Well, I guess, that's not one way to look at it. I started out with lights made out of coffee cans. You got to know where the bar is at. You got to know, what you can do. And believe me, when you're delivering better results, you'll have better clients.
Yeah. And that's an important part. When you can give the better results, I think that's what we're all after.
The best part about that is better clients beget better clients. The people who attend the events for the better clients are better clients. And believe me, I started at the very, very bottom. My first gig, I think, paid $50. Okay, so I don't care where you are or where you think the ceiling is for you, or Ben doesn't know, he's rich and has this big sound company and does tours, and he wouldn't understand. Listen, dude, or whatever. I started in a homeless shelter. All right, so if you think you can't, so be it. But we're going to show you how you can at the symposium, and believe me, there's a roadmap for this success, and it's duplicatable.
Very cool. Very cool. If you guys have any questions for Ben or Mike, please, you can put those in the comment section. I'm actually watching this live I'm on the chat while you're watching this recording going up, because we did this earlier today. But if you have questions, put them there, and I will get those questions to the guys, and they can answer those. Or if you're after the show, put them down in the comments below, because Ben comes in and answers questions, and he doesn't talk in Klingon during the answering of the questions. So that's pretty impressive.
I won't let him. I'll make sure we rein him in. He may go a little bit crazy once in a while. We'll make sure to rein him back in and keep it.
Well, I think we've got really good balance at the symposium, Mike. We really do have kind of a great pairing of 1-2 punches, where we've got me and you, and we've got AJ and Mike Carstens. I mean, Mike K and I are big time geeks. AJ and Mike are more normal, people who can go out in the daylight and whatever, and talk to normal people. But I think we got a good balance, of where we can give you the real cold, hard physics, and then also bring it to a very understandable level. And that's not to say that just because Mike K and I are geeks that we can't. I mean, I've presented hundreds and hundreds of times, and I have lots of conversations with people on the chat boards and things all the time. I think for all the geekiness I have, I think I can get the message across too. So
you're good at noticing when they've got that
glazed.
Well, I'll tell you what, I like to go to the edge. I like to push people. I don't want it to just be, well, this is a speaker and you plug it in and it makes sound. Thanks for coming. Hey, we're going to stretch you. This is going to be 2 days of some pretty awesome learning. And at night, you're going to go party with Mike. And believe me, nobody parties like Mike. It's going to be a great time. And the next day, you're going to come back in and learn some more. You're going to meet some great people who are dedicated to their careers in audio. And you're going to make some lifelong friends, and your career is going to take a new trajectory. That's my prediction for you.
The website.
We'll have Jeremy Breck there reining us in a little bit too. I mean, he's attending himself.
Yeah.
And won't necessarily be presenting, but Jeremy was the one who really pushed for this and said, "Look, you guys have been, all this lighting stuff going on." He says, "I'm a lighting guy, but I don't know enough, So kudos to Jeremy for recognizing that, but he'll be the one to make sure that even if you're embarrassed to ask those questions, that Jeremy's going to speak up and say,
"Hey."
Well, okay. First and foremost, if you spend the money and make the time commitment to come, and you're embarrassed to ask questions, that's your first thing you got to overcome. All right, honor yourself and the commitment you made to come. But 2, this is not based on a prediction. This is based on empirical evidence, because we've done a number of lighting symposiums, and I've seen this played out again and again, where at night, even though we're out partying, people are talking shop. People are saying, that thing they did. And what was that? What was that? Show me that app, or did that thing,
Yeah.
That night in the hotel until 11 o'clock, midnight, people are hanging out and having these conversations. And, I always make myself available at breakfast in the hotel, because I know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to sit down and say, "You mind if I ask you a question?" No, I don't mind at all. That's why I came down here,
Yeah.
And
Now,
that is the process of learning.
That's nice of you to do it. Now we hope that you speak up in the classroom, because if you've got that question, chances are there's a dozen others who do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're there for you. And the thing is if anybody questions whether or not it's worth their time and money to come out there. We said this to a guy online earlier. If you come out and you come to the class, if at the end of it you say, "You know what, Ben and Mike, I don't think it was worth it," no problem. We'll give you your money back. Done.
There you go.
Cool stuff. Gentlemen, website, we got to wrap things up because you guys need to head on. Mike's got some things he needs to do this evening. Link is down below. You guys can check that.
My wife is 15 feet away cooking steaks right now.
Oh, well then, let's go on about that second part of the show we were going to talk about doing. Let's just go right into that right now.
Thursday, I leave for 5 weeks. I'm having steaks with my wife tonight. So,
and it looks like a beautiful evening out there.
That's something maybe sort of like a disclaimer. We probably should warn people that if you get good at audio, you might end up spending more time on the road. So, I mean, you're not forced to, but we should probably warn people that there are opportunities to be gone a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. Guys, thank you very much. Again, the Audio Symposium. What dates is the show coming up?
It's the 10th and the 11th of October.
Okay, so we're coming up here in just a hair over a month. Link is in the description below, theaudiosymposium.com. That'll take you there. You can check that out. Good stuff.
Sweet spot for flights is coming up here. Flights are probably about the cheapest they're going to be for the next 10, 15 days. MSP Airport is a major international hub airport. Very, very, very easy to fly into. I spend half my life in MSP. We have a shuttle from the airport to the hotel, shuttle from the hotel to Electrovoice. This is really, really easy to attend. All you have to do is get yourself on a plane to Minneapolis. We'll pretty much take care of the rest, and open your mind to learn.
Absolutely.
Good stuff. Good stuff, guys. Thank you very much for being on, gentlemen, and I'll see you in, just a little over a month at the Symposium.
Thanks, John.
So that was tonight's show with Ben and Mike. Now, if you guys have got any questions, please put those questions in the comment section down below. Now, the ones on the right here are going to be going away. And right now, we're going to getting ready for the next show, which means that I've got MJ and Dan and Shaney. They're actually on the right screen. They're waiting to go because this was a recorded session. And they're over there now being distracting as I'm finishing this show. It's just, they're over there doing all sorts of things. We need to put a link in that link for the next video because we're going to be doing our little chat. We're going through some notes tonight, and it will be awesome. So you guys can go into that. Otherwise, down below, we're going to be starting show number 4. You did, yeah, you did. I was going to steal home. That's what that sign looks like. So, gang, we'll be back in about 2 or 3 minutes with our 4th show tonight.